All right. Hey. It's PWA office here with
Jerod and Zach Morris.
Katie Jefferson.
and Maggie. Hopefully, you all know us and like us. We're here to talk to you about other duties as assigned, a little bit of lunch, and some planning. So, the biggest issues thus far that we're hearing are those three things. So, we're going to talk to you about what do you do if it's in the contract, what do you do when it's not in the contract, and how we can be of an assistant. So, if you look at your contract, you're going to look on page 17 in Article 6, workload of certified employees. So A is other duties as assigned, and the wording of this just comes directly from the reg. So when we talk about the reg and the policy is voted on by the school board, and the regulation is drafted and moved by the superintendent and administrators. So the policy says
you get lunch for 30 minutes a day.
So the school board says we passed this policy, so obviously everyone's getting a lunch. That's what our policy says. Everybody gets a lunch. But then the reg says,
well, they're going to try
their best. They're going to
they're going to try, and they're going to make every effort to do as such. Right. But what does that mean, every effort to do as such?
So that's what we're going to talk about. So when employees come to you and say, I'm not getting lunch, because we don't know who's getting lunch at this point, right? It's the first week of school, right? So if we were to think, majority of employees probably aren't getting lunch, right?
Really quick though, lunch is duty free.
Lunch is supposed to be duty free. You are supposed to have 30 minutes without having to do anything but take care of yourself.
The only stipulation on that in the regulations is they can tell you to escort your students to the cafeteria, which they're more likely to do if you teach lower level. But if you have done so, they can no longer require you to stay in the cafeteria with your students.
And the school board says, that's okay that you have to walk your kids to lunch, because our policy says your 30-minute lunch doesn't include that. Mm-mm. So this is what you do, because lunch is not in the contract, because who wants to say the quiet part out loud?
They don't want to be held accountable by anyone but themselves.
They view it as scheduling, which is a precluded area of bargaining. However, we view it as a basic human right.
Right. And our schools can't function without the free labor of our staff.
But that's not okay.
Right. So what we have to do is understand it's not in the contract, but there are things that are in the contract that allow reps to support, advocate, and organize members with regards to lunch. So lunch is not in the contract. So what are you going to do? So what is in the contract is that reps have a monthly meeting with administrators. We also have in the contract that reps have the right to ask for data. And we also have in the contract that you can do union work during the day. All right. So if one person's not getting lunch, that is probably more, right? We probably know that there's not just one person not getting lunch. So what you can do is survey. You can have a 10-minute meeting, but somehow, some way, talk to the employees and figure out how many people are impacted by this. All right. After that, you're going to have a meeting with your principal, and you're going to ask for the policy to be enforced. And the policy says
you are entitled to a duty-free lunch.
That every employee shall receive a duty-free lunch. And that does not mean travel time.
What's a synonym for shall?
Will.
Must.
Yeah, has to.
Yes. So if your administrator pushes back and says, but the regulation says we want you to know that what carries more weight, the policy or the regulation?
The policy, the one that was voted on by a board of duly elected individuals.
Right. So you're gonna say that the policy, it overrides the regulation, because in theory regulations and policies should go together, right?
You would
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. So you're going to hold to the policy, and you're also going to say that you would like to see how the best efforts have been made for every employee to receive lunch. So you're going to ask for data.
Because that's not something the administrator can just say to get you out of their office. If they say, well, the regulation says every effort shall be made, your response to that is excellent. So I'm going to trust that every effort has been made. So can you please show me what that effort looks like? Can I
Right.
get some kind of documentation of that process?
So when you think about other duties as assigned and you're thinking about lunch, we are asking the administrators to show their work. Right?
Yeah.
That's all we're doing. Show your work. You should be proud of your work. Show what you know.
I'm
Yeah.
proud.
Yeah.
I'm proud of our work.
All right. So that's what you're going to do. And then you're going to work together in a collaborative effort to ensure that every employee receives a lunch, because we know when employees receive a lunch, it's validation, it's respect, it's a human right. It gives you time to take care of yourself. And when you take care of yourself, you are a better
Employee.
self, right?
That too.
Human
Yeah.
being.
Human being.
We
Their
don't,
answers are.
yeah, we don't break so much, right? We can't break because we're taking care of ourselves. All right, so that's lunch. So let's talk about other duties as assigned. Same thing. Show your work. Again, we tried to get as many of those duties into supplements as we could. If we had a multi-hour long podcast, video podcast, we could probably tell you all the ins and outs of all of the reasons why they were unable to provide you compensation for that time. Unfortunately, we have 10 minutes. How much more time do we have?
About 2.5.
Woo. Okay. All right. So for other duties as assigned, they're going to show their work. So there's nothing in the regulation or policy that mandates that administrator must give employees other duties as assigned. There's nothing.
I have a question. Would every effort possibly be at a sporting event to see if parents were available to volunteer? Does it have to be a teacher who's being the timer for the clock?
No.
It could be an administrator, theoretically.
Yeah,
Right.
that too. Or somebody from the PTO or
Right.
an NJHS volunteer.
So you're going to look at the reg and the policy, because it wasn't placed into the contract because no one wanted to be held accountable, because Prince William County schools are funded on our backs. So what we're going to do is we're going to do two things. We're going to ask them to show their work, that every effort was made to before they started going into other duties. At before, what all efforts did you look at before we have to go to assigned free labor? The second thing that we're going to do, equity. So you're going to ask for work, whatever, all of the things that they did prior to assigning, and then you're going to ask them to show their work, show them how the duties have been spread out equally, right? Those two things. If somebody has bus duty all year, you show me other duty as assigned where every other staff member has something and they're held to that time for the whole year. All right. You're going to ask the administrator to show every effort made prior to going into other duties as assigned. And then you're going to ask the administrator to show how all the duties have been spread out equally. Everybody got that?
I got it.
All right. And then the responsibility of a rep is to understand that although something might not be in the contract, we don't stop there, that we provide support and advocacy through organizing, right? So we're going to have that collaborative relationship with the administrator and be able to have the questions asked through the administrator, but you can also organize with staff, right? And come up with, you know, some additional efforts that they might want to consider prior to going to other duties, right?
Last year during the Respect Your Contract campaign, some of the most successful feedback that we heard from our reps concerned that exact kind of organizing, you know, grabbing affected employees and grouping up and coming and having a conversation with the administrator all at once and saying this is an issue that affects a significant portion of our staff. As our administrator, we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can and we're helping you do everything you can to make sure that everything runs fluidly. So,
all right, I'm going to try to say this really fast, quick, but I want to say we're going to start our first organizing effort next week. It's going to go out to an all-member email on Tuesday, but it only works if we do it. And so we're telling reps in your Thursday rep email that we're going to start organizing about lunch. And that means we need employees to tell your truth, not on the PWA social media, but on your own. We want you to tell your truth. So we want you to share with your friends and your family, and we want you to make it public. We're going to give you the graphic everybody knows and loves. It's simple. It makes sense.
I want lunch.
You can't argue with it. And then we're going to give you some wording that you can use, but we want you to own that you're not receiving lunch, and we want you to put that on your social media publicly, and we want you to tag PWEA. And that's meaningful because it humanizes each one of us, and it shows that not only that it's real, but that it's happening, and you deserve better.
And perhaps policies aren't being enforced by management.
Right. And so, but we need reps. We need you to lead your members. So we're going to help you establish some organizing efforts. We're going to do this on Tuesday, but we can't do it unless people tell their truth. And we need you to do it on your social media, and we need to get your members to do it on their social media, and we need to humanize, and we need to share. So I think that's been about 10 minutes. It's about stuff that we don't want to talk about, but we always talk about. Other duties as assigned, and making sure we get lunch. Know that we're all working here, specifically Zach.
He's even wearing your graphic. He shared it.
Yeah, he did. So we're here for you. The contract is here to support you. We're here to support you. And until next time.
solidarity.
There it is.